Expense debit or credit? Which one to choose? You are interested in expense debit or credit? Which one to choose? Right? So let's go together. Software of tiengnyatmoingay.com. Look forward to seeing this article right here. As a business owner or accountant, you are probably well aware of the importance of tracking your expenses accurately. However, do you know the difference between expense debit and credit? Understanding this distinction is crucial to maintaining your financial records accurately and avoiding costly errors. In this article, we will explore the concept of expense debit and credit, and why it's essential to know the difference. We'll also discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each method, and provide some tips on when to use expense debit or credit to ensure that you make the right decision every time. So, let's dive in and learn more about expense debit and credit and how to choose the right one for your business. Understanding debit and credit. What are debit and credit? Debit and credit are the two fundamental concepts of accounting. Debit refers to an entry on the left-hand side of an account, while credit refers to an entry on the right-hand side of an account. In accounting, every transaction has two aspects, a debit aspect and a credit aspect. When you buy something, for example, you're debiting your account, reducing your balance, and crediting the seller's account, increasing their balance. The double-entry accounting system. The double-entry accounting system is a method of recording financial transactions that ensures that every transaction has equal and opposite debits and credits. This system is essential because it helps maintain the accuracy and integrity of the financial records. Under the double-entry accounting system, every transaction is recorded in at least two accounts, with one account debited and the other credited. This ensures that the total debits always equal the total credits, providing a check on the accuracy of the financial records. Examples of debit and credit transactions. Here are some examples of transactions and their corresponding debit and credit entries. When you purchase office supplies for $500, your supplies account is debited by $500, and your cash account is credited by $500. When you receive a payment of $1,000 for services rendered, your cash account is debited by $1,000, and your revenue account is credited by $1,000. When you pay your rent of $2,000, your rent expense account is debited by $2,000, and your cash account is credited by. Understanding the basic principles of debit and credit is essential to grasp the concept of expense debit and credit, which we'll discuss in the next section. Expense debit and credit. As mentioned earlier, an expense is any business cost incurred in the process of generating revenue. Expenses can include rent, utilities, supplies, and salaries, among others. To ensure that your financial records are accurate, you must record your expenses correctly using either expense debit or credit. Definition of expense. An expense is recorded in your financial records as a decrease in equity or an increase in liabilities. The expense can be either a direct or indirect cost of doing business, and it is essential to keep track of these costs to manage your finances effectively. How to record expenses using debit and credit. To record an expense, you need to understand the double-entry accounting system. This system requires that every transaction is recorded in two accounts, with one account being debited and the other credited. When recording expenses, you would debit the expense account and credit either your cash or accounts payable account, depending on whether you paid for the expense in cash or on credit. Examples of expense transactions using debit and credit. Here are some examples of how to record expenses using debit and credit. Rent expense. Debit rent expense account and credit cash account. Utilities expense. Debit utilities expense account and credit cash account. Office supplies expense. Debit office supplies expense account and credit cash or accounts payable account. By recording your expenses correctly using either expense debit or credit, you can ensure that your financial records are up to date and accurate, Next, we'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of using expense debit and credit to help you make the right decision for your business. Advantages and disadvantages of expense debit and credit. When it comes to recording expenses, both expense debit and credit have their own set of advantages and disadvantages. Let's take a closer look at each method.